Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Art Burns, and I hope that you're having a great day today. And by saying that I hope you're having a great day today, what I'm saying is the same thing that I like to say on very many of these podcast episodes, which is that whatever you're experiencing today, I really hope that you're experiencing it, that you're meeting the experience with a measure of presence, with a measure of acceptance, with some compassion, and most of all, or perhaps most of all, with curiosity. Because if you're meeting every experience that you're going through today, even though it's Monday, even though back on the East Coast, I think you all are experiencing a lot of snow, even though things might not be the way that you hope that they would be or the way that you want them to be, or they might even be downright uncomfortable at times, but in that discomfort and in that, not being what you hope it would be, if you can meet what it is, and I mean what it is, not what you hope it would be, but what it is, and you can meet what it is with presence, okay, being right here with it, turning towards it, and allowing yourself to experience it, and doing so with acceptance, right? Knowing that, I really didn't want it to snow today. I'm not happy that it's snowing today because, snow means that I got to dig out a driveway and I got to do all this other stuff, but accepting that this is what's happening, right? Because it's not going, whether you accept or don't accept the snow, it's not going to make the snow go away. Right? All it's going to do is take away your ability to be happy. And so the same thing goes with compassion and curiosity. I got my brain twisted between those two words. I was just about to come with like a passion or something. So, but the same thing is true with curiosity and compassion, right? If we can maintain a level of compassion for ourselves and for others, and we can be curious about what it is that we're experiencing, well then, again, everything then is going to allow for our happiness, even in spite of whatever difficulties we might be experiencing. And so I hope that through the practices that I talk about here on this podcast and YouTube channel, and I hope through the ideas that I share here, that you are able to start living a little bit in this way. And if you're not, believe me, all it requires is a little bit of understanding of the practices and execution of the practices, but it's really, really super simple, like beyond simple. It's like ridiculously simple. Last night I jumped out of bed and I wrote something down that's going to be something you're going to hear me say a lot from now on. I couldn't not write this down because it seemed so important, right? And so what I jumped out of bed to write down in my notebook was happy for no reason. And that's the idea here, folks, right? We're not happy just because it's Friday. We're not happy just because it's Wednesday and it's hump day. We're not happy because of this thing that we got to buy. We're not happy because of the car that we have. We're not happy because of the house, the family, the food, the money, all that stuff. All that stuff is great to have, but that is not why you're happy. You are happy. If you are happy because you are present, not the other way around. You are not present because you're happy because you're present. And the reason you're present is because you're allowing yourself to be accepting, to dwell in compassion, and to be curious about your experiences. Right? So that's the way this works, folks. And that's all I want for you. That's really all I want for you. I want for you to be happy for no reason, the same way that I am. And I'm telling you, folks, it is attainable. It is attainable even for the most curmudgeon-y person out there who thinks that there's nothing to be happy about ever. You can do it. I promise you can do it. And so if you're struggling with these ideas and trying to figure out how this can all happen for you, well, then that's a good reason to pick up the phone and give me a call, okay? Or I mean, it's not really picking up the phone anymore, but but you can go to my website and schedule a call. You can email me. You can get to me through the social media platform on which you're seeing this video. Any which way you want to get a hold of me, just get a hold of me, because I can teach you the very simple practices. And it is a practice. Your well-being is a practice. We've talked about that here before too. And your well-being is so tightly and closely tied to your happiness that it is a skill, and a skill requires practice. but practice can be fun, right? Like riding a bike was practice too, but you loved it, right? And anything that you do in your life it's technically practice. And there's a lot of things that you love about what you do in your life. So don't be scared by the word practice. Be excited and inspired by the happy for no reason. And let me show you how it's done, okay? Is that a deal? All right. So today's episode is inspired and requested by one of my amazing patrons out there. So I want you to. I'm just really excited to share this concept with you. My patron, the same one responsible for this wonderful mic and mic stand. He asked me to talk about perfectionism. All right, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about perfectionism. Now, perfectionism is a tricky kind of thing, right? Some people actually consider it a positive trait to have. You know, most people don't agree with that, but some people do consider it to be an admirable trait, right? And I guess the idea is that perfection. If we're striving towards perfection, then that is, I guess, technically a positive ideal that we can hold, right? But I think where people think of it as something that is a positive trait, well, I think that's because they're kind of conflating the concept of high achieving, right, or hard working, and perfectionism. Right? Because those are two different things, right? And high achieving and hard working and dedication to one's goals, those are very positive things. But when we draw that line and we talk about perfectionism, right, which is to say that nothing but perfection is acceptable, well, that, my friends, is actually a kind of a little bit of a deep rabbit hole that we can fall down, and it can lead to some really, really tricky and unpleasant experiences internally, emotionally, and psychologically. And so let's talk about that today. Now, of course, I am just so happy to have this topic, right, because the opposite of perfectionism, or I should say the solution to perfection, as I'll explain later on this podcast, is self-compassion. And anyone who's listened to even a couple of these webinar podcasts and YouTube videos knows that one of my very favorite subjects is self-compassion. So let's jump into it. Okay, so let's first go over a few of the different traits. I'm looking off to the side here because I got notes here on a whiteboard. So let's go over some of the traits of perfectionism, like people who engage in perfectionism. What does that mean? Okay, we're going to go through some of those traits. Maybe some of them will resonate with you. Maybe some of them won't. Maybe some will resonate with somebody else that you know in your life, right? And then after that, we're going to go into, where perfectionism comes from. Okay, like how we develop it. And then most importantly, in my opinion, we're going to go over how we can kind of work against the perfectionism, which might be, causing us to feel discomfort and suffering that we don't need to feel. Okay, so first of all, the traits of compassion. So again, one of the things that people conflate, I think, is the notion of a high achiever with the notion of a perfectionist. Okay, so when we talk about perfectionism, right, people who are perfectionists, right, they tend to have this kind of all or nothing approach to things, right? Anything that they're going to do, right? It's either perfect or it's everything else, right? So it really is an all or nothing, right? And so that in that sense, people feel like, if they can't be perfect, then it's not worth doing. Right? Now, of course, if we just look at that one, right? I mean, we can see how if we're looking at things as either perfect or just a failure and there's nothing in between, well, then that really eliminates a lot of the different experiences that we have in our lives. Yeah. I mean, that really narrows the view down in a way that is not natural to life. Okay, when we're living life is made up of just almost endless possibilities and permutations and things that are affected by other things, right? Like there's anything that we're trying to do, it's not just us trying to do it. It's how that thing fits into the global sort of macro vision of our lives, right? Which includes a lot of other people, which includes a lot of different circumstances, which includes a lot of different emotional states that we're going through. On a given day, on Monday, maybe you're a little tired, so it's hard to be perfect, right? As opposed to on Friday, you're full of energy. I know I talked about that before, that I don't want to engage in that sort of system of Friday's happy, Monday's unhappy, but there is a reality to the rhythm and the energy that we feel, yeah? Because over the weekend, you probably had a lot of fun, maybe you were, partying up a little bit and you didn't get a great amount of sleep on Sunday night, so you're feeling a little slower, your energy's a little lower on Monday. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But what is wrong is that if you are approaching an endeavor on Monday, well, physically it's going to be impossible for it to be perfect. And yet, if you're a perfectionist, then anything less than perfect is a failure. And so in that case, you're going to wind up experiencing a lot of failure. And that alone is something that is going to contribute to your suffering. All right, but we're going to get into that a little bit more deeply in just a second. So another trait of perfectionism is very highly critical. People who are perfectionists are very highly critical of themselves, right? I mean, it kind of is by definition, right? If you're feeling like it has to be perfect, and anything less than perfect is a failure, well, then generally speaking, you're going to be beating yourself up quite a bit, because you just can't be perfect all the time. It's just not possible. It's an unrealistic goal. It's an unrealistic ideal. It's an unrealistic notion. And so the more someone is engaged in perfectionism, well, then the more inherently they are going to be criticizing themselves. And of course, criticizing ourselves leads to things like stress and unworthiness and all kinds of negative emotions that are going to be kind of damaging to our lives and are going to get in the way, again, of our happiness, right? If you're a perfectionist, there's almost never a time where you're happy for no reason. You're either happy because you achieved a goal and you got perfect on something, or you're unhappy. And there's nothing in between. So you can see how that sort of duality there is a thing that will probably not result in a lot of happiness for us, right? And not result in a lot of very good feelings for us, right? And so what does that translate into, right? That's suffering. Yeah. And so perfectionists, by definition, they're motivated on some level, and this might be very unconscious, right? You can have the sense that everything's got to be perfect and not realize that you are being motivated by fear. But that's really what's happening, right? You're motivated by the fear of failure. You're motivated by the fear of maybe ridicule or whatever it is that is kind of conjured up, whatever arises within you when you consider imperfection. If you are a perfectionist, then you are afraid of that. And that is what is going to motivate you. Now, we've talked about this a lot, that when we are motivated by fear, right, we're working from the survival mode of our body. And therefore, we're going to make decisions and we're going to take actions. We're going to have relationships with people that are coming from a place in us that is not optimized for happiness and for well-being. That place of fear is optimized for survival, either fight, flight, or freeze. And that's the way it is. And so if you are a perfectionist, then chances are you have a lot of fear in your heart and in your mind. And not that they're two different things. The heart and the mind are basically very intricately entwined with one another, but yours is going to have a lot of fear in it. And that fear, again, is what's going to contribute to the stress that you're feeling. And I would say that if, that stat that I always throw out at y'all, that, 77% of American adults experience chronic fear. Well, I would say something like, at least half of those, if not, 3/4 of those, maybe more, are, that fear is coming from this idea of perfection. because that is something that we're kind of, again, taught. But we're going to get into the source of it in a second. Let me not get distracted here. So unrealistic, perfectionism, like people who are perfectionists are not realistic people. Yeah, they have kind of very unrealistic goals, unrealistic standards for themselves. In order to be perfectionist, you are necessarily, by definition, you are focused on the results of what it is that you're going through. Now, if you remember the way I started this podcast here, right? The first thing I asked and the first thing I hoped for you is that you're living with presence, because presence equals happiness. Okay, there's been lots of studies done on this. This is not ambiguous, and this is not at all in question. Okay, that the analyses that are done, like path analysis on several different studies, many different ways in which they've determined the fact that people are happy because they are present. They are not present because they are happy. They are happy because they are present. And so if you are a perfectionist, you are constantly living in fear of the future. And therefore, you are almost never present. And therefore, I'm sorry to say that it's going to be very rare that you are just happy. Okay, you'll be satisfied. You'll get a rush of what you kind of think is happiness when you do something perfectly. Okay. But again, chances are that's probably maybe 10, 15% of the time. The rest, you're going to be pretty unhappy. And even that happiness that you feel of achieving that goal, that's not true happiness. That's just satisfaction. What that really is the absence of the fear of failure. Yeah. But now we can have that absence of fear of failure all the time. And that's kind of the idea. So this focused on results, right, also will tend to lead to things like anxiety and depression, right? Perfectionists, I would imagine, are pretty much always anxious, because they're always worried about what's going to happen and whether they're going to be, successful or failure. And again, there's only a very, very slim margin, right? Like there's almost no margin for error in a perfectionist mind. And so therefore, depression and anxiety are things that are going to be always just right here and ready to go. And that's a real danger for a lot of people, and especially for people who are perfectionists. Next thing, ironically, right? Very ironically, that actually perfectionists, and this also applies to high achievers as well, well, actually not so much for high achievers, but certainly for perfectionists, is that we're going to feel procrastination, right? Because you're going to feel like, unless I'm taking a step in the direction of perfection, then I don't want to take the step at all. And so a lot of people who are perfectionists are going to wind up feeling a level of paralysis or inertia, right? You're going to feel this sense of like, well, I can't go, like I can't take that step towards that thing because I don't know if it's perfect. And so therefore, people who are perfectionists are going to tend to live inside their heads, as we call it, right? They're going to be thinking and overthinking and rethinking and re-overthinking and just, just kind of trying to figure it all out before making that first move. But the thing is that in any endeavor that you are taking on, the perspective that you have is very, very important. And just taking a couple of steps oftentimes changes that perspective enough that you realize things that you had no idea were possible. A perfectionist loses out on that. A perfectionist stays exactly where they are until they know these steps can result in a perfect outcome. And therefore, again, that results in a lot of tentativeness and even paralytic procrastination. Defensive. Most people who are perfectionists are very defensive of themselves because, again, they're striving for this absolute 100% perfection. This unimpeachable perfection. And that's simply not really attainable, not realistically. And so what happens is people wind up being very defensive of their actions, their goals, their notions, their perspectives. And they're defensive to the point of the point where they're defending themselves so much that they're not able to learn about themselves, right? Because again, defensiveness comes from that same place of fear and stress. And so bottom line is that there's no, again, I said that at least half of the people who deal with chronic stress all the time are perfectionists. It's probably much higher than that. And so you really just have no chance at that point. If you're engaged in this idea of perfectionism, then you really are giving yourself no chance at happiness and fulfillment in your life. And this is a major, major problem, because what we're here for is to feel happiness and fulfillment in our lives. That's the whole point of this whole game, folks, because the more happy we are, the more positive results we have in our lives. The happier we are, the better our decisions are, the better our relationships are, the better our the more ability we have to accept failure when it comes and learn from it and grow from it. But this all happens from a place of happiness. When we're in a place of unhappiness, which is, again, just created by the stress and the fear and the anxiety and the depression and the perfectionism and all this other stuff that we talk about here in this podcast, that's what keeps you from your happiness. And that is what causes the problems in your life. Right? A lot of times people talk about like the law of attraction and abundance and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, really, all that is happiness. Because if you can be happy, like I say, for no reason, just being happy, well, then all of that stuff is going to happen. You are going to attract better things because you're going to be making better decisions. You're going to be working harder. You're going to be happy to work harder. You're going to be more resilient. You're going to be more generous with yourself. You're going to have a positive outlook, and you're going to be able to pay attention to what's happening because you're going to have less distraction in the different, pushing and pulling of the future and the past. Now, I don't know if you saw that, but I just sneaked in those four constituents of well-being again, right? That happiness allows us to pay more attention, to be more attentive to our present moment, to have a more positive outlook, to be more generous, and to be more resilient. That's the four constituents of well-being. Whereas everything I've mentioned about perfectionism is the opposite of all that. Right? So perfectionism is actually sapping your well-being away from you. Right? So to practice perfectionism is actually to practice against your ability to be happy and your well-being. So the last trait on my list here is low self-esteem. Now, self-esteem is a very interesting thing, and this is going to segue me into the self-compassion, right? Because self-esteem is something that's highly touted for people. It's like feel self-esteem, go get it, feel like you can do it, you got this, that kind of stuff, right? It's all very good to cheer yourself on, right? But what happens when we fail? When we fail, self-esteem is the first one out the door. Right, it's that like the George Costanza scene from Seinfeld where he's pushing the little kids out of the way because he thinks there's a fire in the building. Right, like that's what self-esteem does. It's literally elbowing people out of the way to get out of there first. Right, it's very selfish that way, and that's the thing. Right, your self-esteem is going to abandon you in the face of adversity. But self-compassion is the thing that will always support you in that moment of adversity. So before I get into the self-compassion, I know I said that was a perfect segue, but I actually do have to go through the sources of what's of perfectionism is, because if any of what I just described as these traits of perfectionism resonate with you, then it's very worth your while to kind of examine where it all came from. What made you this way? And generally speaking, where we're going to get perfectionism from, it's going to come from advertising, very, very much from advertising, especially when we talk about our body image, right? pardon me, this dry air out here in Colorado. When we have, when we're watching TV and we're reading magazines and we're going online and we're seeing ads, right? Like, ads are there to tell you that you're just not complete, right? Ads are there to tell you that there's something more that you should be, right? That you're not good enough yet until you get this car, you lose 30 pounds, go to the gym and get a rock hard body and, all this kind of stuff, right? And so a lot of it comes from there, but it's also going to come from, parents. It's going to come from coaches. It's going to come from teachers. Yeah. Right. Like we get a gold star when we get an A. When we're perfect on a test, we get this beautiful reward, right? When we're perfect at a class, we maybe even get to get into an advanced placement class next year, right? Whereas if we don't get perfection, what are we? We're mediocre. And we're taught that mediocrity is like the enemy, but it's not. I mean, to be mediocre, well, let me ask you this. Would you rather be excelling but unhappy, or would you rather be mediocre and happy? My friends, I would take mediocre and happy every day of the week, twice on Sunday. All right, so these are the kind of places where perfectionism is coming from for us, right? It's coming from the programming and the patterns that we developed in our first 7 years of life, and then compounded by other things that we start out with this programming in the first 7 years, and then it kind of gets reinforced through the coaches and the teachers and the girlfriends and boyfriends and all that stuff, right? And the advertising and all of that, the competitiveness that we have. And so it's really helpful to kind of look at this perfectionism and try to see where the source is, because once you can realize the source, that's a huge step in the ability to move past it. And that's really what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to move past this idea of perfectionism, because the whole thing is you are perfect already, right? There's nothing more perfect than this present moment. That's all that we ever need. The people who love you feel that you're perfect. You don't need anything more than that, right? If you're a parent, your children look at you as the perfect individual. So there's no need to be perfect. You already are perfect. And the idea to be perfect actually just screws us up and makes us imperfect. It's such a catch-22, such a crazy, contradiction in our lives. And so anyway, how do we get out of perfectionism? Let's say this whole list that I said was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that I just named. Let's say that, you screaming resonance out of 7 of them. And you're like, holy crap, what do I do, Art? How do I get out of perfectionism? Help me, please help me. Well, it's very simple. It's my favorite subject. It's self-compassion. Right. But it's also the 4 things that I mentioned at the beginning of every podcast here, right? To be present, to be accepting, to be compassionate, and to be curious. That is the remedy for perfectionism. Because again, if you're present, you're really focused not on the outcome of something, but on the process of something. You're focused on what it means to be alive right now, in this moment. And this moment kind of transcends the whole time and clock and calendar that's happening. All that stuff happens within this present moment. And I'll explain that another time. I have another episode coming up to talk about what now means and what the present moment means. And we're going to go over that in a few days. But really just understand, though, that to be present, right, means to not be perfectionist. Because the world is not a perfect place. Your body is not perfect. But you are perfect. And this moment is perfect. All right? Now, acceptance. Right? That's an obvious one to me anyway, that if you want to be, if you want to get past perfectionism, then accept when things aren't perfect. Okay? Compassion, right? That when you're not perfect, be compassionate to yourself. Just hold yourself up. Hold your own hand and say, hey, listen, we did the best we could. And even if we didn't do the best we could, we can do better next time. We can always be enough at any given moment. And that self-compassion is what that is, right? If you saw someone just sobbing, uncontrollably sobbing because they thought they were ugly because somebody just dumped them or something, like, a girlfriend and a boyfriend or something like that, and this person's just crying because they feel like they're just not good enough. They're terrible. What's the first thing that you're going to tell them? And it's not a lie, but you're going to tell them you are good enough. You are perfect. And if that boy or girl didn't see that in you, well, then that's their loss, not yours. That's what we tell people. And we tell them that because it's true. And we know it's true because that's really how we feel, because we know that if we were in their position, that's what we would want someone else to tell us. And so that's the easiest way to practice self-compassion, is when you're feeling down and you're feeling, dejected and just having a hard time on any kind of level. Talk to yourself as you would talk to someone else who is going through the same position, the same experience. I promise you, it's a game changer. And then finally, curiosity, right? If we can be curious about every single moment of every single day, well, then there's no perfect anymore. Like that, the whole concept of perfectionism just gets turned on its head because we're curious, right? It's not like if you were to read a book or watch a movie where just everything was perfect for the character, right? Like the main character, just everything worked out exactly the way he or she wanted to, you would walk out halfway through that movie, or you'd close the book after 3 chapters. It would be like, I cannot deal with the whole book of this. This is boring. It's horrible. Because the excitement in life is that push and pull, the fail and the succeed, the happy and the sad, the positive emotion, the negative emotion. It takes all of it for us to really live our lives. And so you can do that by practicing presence, acceptance, compassion, self-compassion in this particular case, and curiosity. And if you would like help in practicing those, well, then all you have to do is get in touch with me, because I can give you some very simple, very proven, practices that can get you to live in those with those qualities within a few weeks. That's literally all it takes. All right, folks. So I didn't set my it's 31 minutes. I didn't set my timer today, and I was wondering how much. I was like, oh gosh, I'm here probably going on an hour, but it was only 31 minutes. Look at that. I wasn't even striving for perfection, but yet I hit perfection. You see how that works too? And that's a very valid thing too, that when we stop trying to be perfect, that's when we can be perfect. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope Lorenz, I hope you enjoyed it really. And if anybody has any questions, though, please just get in touch with me and let me know what your questions are, and I'll answer them as best I can, even if that means hopping on a call with each other so we can really have a question and answer kind of period. All right. And if you're interested in becoming a patron and you would like to be able to suggest new topics yourself, then it's very possible, and I'll include a link in today's email and on the YouTube video description and the podcast description too, in case anybody wants to join my dear friend Lorenz and become a patron of this show. It really would mean a lot to me. It's really, I love doing this, but there's bills to pay, so I have my coaching business, but hey, it all adds up. And so if you're interested in supporting this work, I would truly love that. I'd be very grateful. And yes, patrons eventually are going to have some special benefits. I'm still trying to figure out what those benefits are, but something in the way of like a personal coaching kind of thing, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to, I'm all about the exchange. So if you're interested in that, please, I will put the link in the description of today's video and podcast, and you can join when you're ready. All right, everybody. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. I wish you well. And tomorrow we're going to be back. I don't recall let me look up real quick what the topic of tomorrow is. Sorry, this is terrible dead air here. Okay, so yeah, tomorrow we're going to talk about the effect that we have on others in our lives. And honestly, when we're perfectionists, the effect that we have on others is not very positive. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity is going to benefit not just you, but everyone else whose lives you touch every day. And that's where the magic, that's the special sauce right there, folks. And I can't wait to share that with you tomorrow. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching again. Thanks for listening again. Wishing you well. I'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.